Assalamualaikum and good morning. I be to Dr. Radwan and my fellow friends. Today, we are from Group 5. We'll present our case study, which is case study number 3, Fairuz. So Fairuz is a 40 years old employee who had accident while operating a flour molding machine. He was detained for 6 days in hospital, and the doctor said that every finger and part of his palm have to be amputated. Fairuz is also underwent physiotherapy for 3 months due to accidents, and also he is also suffered additional trauma from the accidents. Other than that, Fairuz also then decided to resign 6 months later since the trauma is too much for him to handle. By referring to the both Employees Social Security Act 1969 and Employees Provident Fund Act 1991, the first benefit that Mr. Fairuz entitled to get is medical benefit. Medical benefit is under the Employment Injury Scheme, which is under Employees Social Security Act 1969. There are some conditions that must be followed in order for an employee to get the medical benefit. Mr. Fairuz is entitled to receive this medical benefit and get treatment at any Socso panel clinic or government hospital or clinic under contract with Socso until he is fully recovered. It means that Mr. Fairuz eligible to get the medical benefit as he had the accident during the course of his employment. Temporary disablement benefit, which is also under the Employment Injury Scheme. In order to get this benefit, there are few conditions that provided before an employee can get the benefits. So by referring on this case study, Mr. Fairuz, who is an employee, had an accident while doing his job in the course of employment. Other than that, Mr. Fairuz is entitled to receive this temporary disablement benefit as he was detained for more than 4 days in the hospital and unfit to go forward. The payment will be made based on the period basis and circumstances of disability to do the work that caused by the accidents.
I am Zuhaira binti Abdurrahman. I would like to continue the presentation that Mr. Fairuz would get is permanent disablement benefit. Permanent disablement benefit is actually for the employee who suffer from a permanent disability due to employment injury can apply for this benefit, such as Mr. Fairuz. Fairuz is suffer from a permanent disability where part of his right hand was shattered while he operating a flour molding machine. He also can apply for this benefit. Then, because of that, the loss of his palm, it can be categorized as loss 100%, so he would get benefit 90% daily. The daily rate of permanent disablement benefit is 90% of the Fairuz average assumed daily wage, and it's subject to a minimum of 30 ringgit per day or maximum of 118 ringgit 50 cent per day. Then, Mr. Fairuz can claim within 12 months from the last date of the temporary disablement or after he would get MMI. Then the assessment and payment, the assessment does not exceed 20%, can be made in lump sum, but in case of Mr. Fairuz, the assessment levels is exceed 20%. So he would give an option to commute 1/5 of daily rate of the benefit into a lump sum, and the balance will be paid monthly for the whole life. Then, how to claim? Mr. Fairuz must make a written application to the relevant Socso office and to be referred to the medical council. So here the examples of the web that he can get all the forms. Okay, I will continue to explain the third benefit received by Mr. Fairuz. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Zuhaiba binti Abdurrahman. Okay, the third benefit received by Mr. Fairuz is a physiotherapy under rehabilitation benefits. The type of physiotherapy that's suitable to Mr. Fairuz is a musculoskeletal rehabilitation. This treatment is to restore the strength and the ability of the muscle and joint system. This special treatment for a client who have a physical head problem or limitation of limb movement such as a body, arm and leg as a result of being involved in accident. Okay, because of Mr. Fairuz suffered a serious hand injury that limited his movement, so he able to receive this benefit. For example, the Socso Rehabilitation Center will provide a high technology equipment such as armio spring to improve the function of Mr. Fairuz's hand. Okay. When Mr. Fairuz follow this physiotherapy treatment, this some extent able to help Mr. Fairuz to reduce the pain of his hand. According to the Employment Provident Fund Act 1991, Fairuz also can withdraw all his money from the EPF account under the incapacitation withdrawal, but he must comply with certain qualifying condition.
he must a citizen of Malaysia, and he also not reach 55 years at the time of the EPF receive his application, and they are saving in the EPF account and no longer employed at the time of application is made, and the application must be supported with a medical report dated not more than 1 year from the date of the application is received. Before that, he also need to attend interview session that we conducted by EPF officer. Other than that, disability assistance payment of 5,000 ringgit will be given at the discretion of the EPF.
Hi, my name is Lee and I will give the answer to question number 2. Right, so the first duty that an employee should execute when an accident occurs at the workplace is to make sure that all employees is insured. According to Section 5 of Employees Social Security Act 1969, all employees in the industry to which this act applies shall be insured in the manner provided by the act, meaning that if an accident occurs at the workplace, the injured employee should be able to get benefits such as invalidity benefit, disablement benefit, medical benefits, and many more. As required in Section 22, subsection B, as far as sustained partial permanent disablement, then he should be entitled to periodical payment from the employer. And secondly, as an employer, this is actually cooperate with existing institution or promote measures for health welfare and others of the injured person, which is the employees. And as according to Section 40, subsection 1 of Employees Social Security Act 1969, the organization, as a way to give additional benefit to injured persons, can actually cooperate with institutions like maybe Department of Occupational Safety and Health Malaysia, so that it can improve the welfare of their employees and can also, prepare for rehabilitation and employment of employees that have been disabled or injured while working. In this case, in Faris' case, maybe the employee should have moved Faris to another department where he can actually do work instead of doing his full work.
Thirdly, when accident happen at a workplace, the employer will have to notify Social Security Organization, Socso, by filling in the accident report, Form 21, as well as submitting a claim form, Form 10, in which evidences such as attendance record or medical certificate are needed for the claimant. In this case, Faris' employer will have to notify Socso about Faris' employment injury and will have to ask Faris for his necessary document so that the employer can claim for reimbursement of expenses incurred in respect of medical treatment at Socso's non-medical clinic. However, if Faris got a treatment at Socso's medical clinic or government clinic, the expenses will be free.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Adib bin Muhammad Zulfaka and I will explain on question number 3. The question is with reference to the Malaysian Employment Act 1955, identify the right and protection given to an employee in terms of leave. Generally, there are 4 types of leave that practice in Malaysia. According to the legislation, every employee is eligible for a paid holidays on 10 of the gazetted holidays. Out of the 10 gazetted public holidays, 4 of them are included with National Day, the birthday of Yang di-Pertuan Agong, the birthday of Yang di-Pertuan Negeri, and Workers' Day. Under the Holidays Act 1951, the Malaysian authorities may declare additional public holidays for a specific year by issuing a different announcement. Next, for the annual leave, every employee shall be entitled to paid annual leave of 8 days of every year for a period service less than 2 years, 12 days for every year for a period service more than 2 years but less than 5 years, 16 days for every year for a period service more than 5 years. If an employee misses more than 10% of the working days during the 12 months of continuous without authorization from his employer and without good cause, he will not be entitled to such leave. And when an employee on paid annual leave become qualified for sick leave or maternity leave while on that leave, the employee will be given the sick leave or the maternity leave as the case may be, and the annual leave is considered not to be taken from which sick leave or maternity leave is granted. Next, I will explain on the sick leave. An employee shall, after the examination at the expense by the employer, by a registered medical practitioner duly appointed by the employer. So, if the employee required no hospitalization, the amount of paid sick leave is 14 days in aggregate if period of service is less than 2 years, and 18 days in aggregate if period of service is more than 2 years but less than 5 years, and 22 days in aggregate if period of service is more than 5 years. If the employee required hospitalization, the employee will entitled to 60 days in aggregate and need to be certified by medical officer. An employee shall also be entitled to paid sick leave under the paragraph 1, subsection AA and BB after the examination by a dental surgeon as defined in the Dental Act 1971, Act 51. Next, we have the maternity leave. Every female employee shall be entitled to maternity leave for a period of not less than 60 consecutive days. Subject to the Section 40, maternity leave shall not commence earlier than a period of 30 days immediately preceding the confinement of a female employee or later than the immediately following her confinement. That's all from me. Thank you.
The The last question is, discuss the action that can be taken against the employer in Fairuz case. In Fairuz case, we could refer to the duty of care under common law. Until now, there is no specific common law that stated the employer should take care of the well-being of employees' mental health, and there is also no thought under mentioned law for negligent infliction of mental suffering or intentional infliction of mental suffering. However, Fairuz could take an action by filing a lawsuit against his employer regarding the trauma he suffered caused by his employer negligence, as his employer asked him to return to work and handle the same machine that caused his partial disability when he still not yet recovered from the accident. To make his employer liable for negligence, there are 4 elements that need to be satisfied, which are duty, breach of duty, causation, and damage. If these 4 elements can be proven, then Fairuz employer may potentially be found liable for negligence.
Thank you for watching. That is all from all of us.